live. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. All right. All right. Hi, Amy. How are you today? Glad you could join. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Christine. Hi, Marlon. I knew you were going to be here today. I know how to get you over here. Hi, Courtney. Yes, we are a big community. We all have to stick together and support each other. And I'm sure that Marlon will agree with that. And everyone here, including Haley herself. Okay? Natasha K, what's up? Natasha K in the house. Marlena, what's up? You owe me a date, girl. Okay? You can't escape. Yeah, I've been trying to get her over here to have a conversation, and she's avoiding. But that's okay. I know where you reside. Okay? You can run, but you can't hide. All right? Thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate you sincerely because Haley is an amazing content creator, okay? And I reached out to her because she has a powerful message, okay, that we want to hear. All right? So, again, I want to be respectful for everybody's time, okay? And I'm Margaret Williams. I help women who have been marginalized to elevate their voices, stop surviving power systems, and start leading with freedom, influence, and authority. And I am very grateful to be here today with Haley. Okay. Um, Hallie-Claire Weems. Okay. She is a visual artist who describes her work as weird with a brush. Okay. Her work often features a work in progress theme showcasing the raw and evolving nature of her creative process. Okay. And that's what makes her unique. Okay. And so her professional background includes artistic focus, where she specializes in painting and drawing with recent interest in capturing realistic details such as wrinkles and grays. And she'll get into that. Okay. Then her media and presence, she hosts a Substack titled Work in Progress, where she shares updates of her on her paintings and reflections on the creative life. Okay? Now, some of her collaborations include Sick of the Shit publication that was episode 24, Notes of the Week, on March the 10th, along with Marlon Weems. Okay, they celebrated a celebration of art, creativity, and resistance through joy. Okay. And also, she appeared as a guest on the podcast with I'd Rather Be Writing on March the 20th, where she was discussing how creation is an act of defiance. Okay. And she also has an online shop. Okay. She has her own website, her IG. Okay. And we are going to make sure to include all of her links, okay, in the article when it's posted. I also believe you were on the whatever show, but I didn't. Okay. We can also talk about that. So now, with your philosophy that touches themes on self-care, returning to one's own rhythm, and the importance of self-exploration through art, talk to us about what brought you to Substack and where you are in your leadership journey today.
Yeah. And thanks for having me on and platforming uh a young artist.
Yes.
Yeah, so what brought me to Substack? My dad, I don't want to say begged, but he
Okay.
was very persistent and really wanted me to join Substack. He thought that the community on here would be very good for me, in terms of, I guess, just uplifting me and promoting my work. And I mean, I've been very accepted on this platform. Yeah. And in terms of, I guess you said my leadership journey, it's a work in progress, for lack of a better term. A lot of aspects of my life are a work in progress right now, which is why I like getting to be on this platform and getting to be very raw and getting to show, the parts of me that I've kind of been afraid to show. And I appreciate that those parts are equally as accepted as, the more refined parts. Yeah, it's very, very validating.
If you don't mind sharing, how old are you?
I'm 22 years old. I'll be 23 in June. So,
That's amazing. Now I saw that picture, and you said you was going to have it with you today. So when you talk about your work and your age and things like that, we have been creating since we were born into the world, and we just don't really realize that the voices that we spoke as a child, um, everything that we came in contact with the crayons that we used to draw, the teachers that shaped our lives, including our mother and father. uh, you came from a very stable background with loving parents, okay, which aided in your creativity process. Many of us, like myself, we were robbed of that, and we had to find that within ourselves to find solace. So talk to us about your creative process and how it has developed over the years.
mhm. um, I think I, I have the privilege of having very supportive parents. I, my childhood was not without hardship. I my family, in, the Cliff Notes version, we were affected by, the 2008 financial crisis. My dad did work on Wall Street. Um, and so that came with its own set of trials and tribulations. And I did stop doing art for, I think, about a year, um, just because of all of, I guess, the turbulence that was kind of in effect around me when I was, I guess I was about 9 or 10, and I just wasn't creating anything. Um, and then I found it again, and I just kept at it. So my process is definitely not um, linear, which I think is a misconception that, a lot of people think that you have to keep it up over time, or you know being creative, like you said, it's intuitive. It's something that, as human beings, we just do. And I think that there are hindrances that occur that can get in the way of that. I have a lot of peers that are close to me. They, used to make art all the time, and then they started going to school in a non uh, arts field, and they kind of lost it. And they have, this idea that, oh, I don't really want to try again because I'm not going to be good at it. And it's not, I don't think creative expression is something you necessarily have to be good at to do. I think it's a form of expression. And yeah, but not to go off on a tangent. Yeah, I for most of my life I was self-taught. When I went to art school, I kind of already knew the basics, the fundamentals. It was a little hard to like try to surrender to professors that have been doing this for their whole lives as well. Um, but I did learn a lot from them and other artists. And not being the only artist in the room that has also been drawing their whole lives was a humbling experience. But it's something that I think a lot of artists need to go through, like, not go through, but I think it's good to be exposed to other artists, other talented artists that have, been honing in on the craft. Um, but yeah.
So, what would you recommend to artists that are questioning their capabilities?
Um, mm, it's a good question. I think I think it depends. Mm, as an artist that definitely does question her capabilities. Um, I think I think one thing that is, I guess, an important uh, question to ask yourself is whose voice is questioning your capabilities. Is it, oh, this is not where I want to be as an artist? I know I can do better as an artist. Or is it, this isn't good enough to present to the world? The world isn't going to think this is good enough. I think that is a good thing to distinguish. Um, but it can also go hand in hand. I think it's very difficult to kind of decide where the line is, but I think that persistence is the greatest thing for an artist. One of the greatest things, at least. Um, and I mean, I myself, I often get caught in the comparison of, just, I mean, social media is a big place for comparison. Um, and I have questioned, is this really like good enough to put out in the world? Will this resonate with people? And I think that one of the toughest things as an artist is you have to keep creating even if no one is listening, because I think um I think that is just, it's so true. And I know that sounds so like cliche, but and it's hard because the world isn't really built for being persistent in the art, like it's hard to keep going. uh but yeah, persistence is key in my opinion. So,
Okay, in your work, for example, when do you decide it's good enough?
mm,
Where do you receive that answer from? An external or an internal?
mm. I think so. One of the things that I learned in art school is um, it the piece is never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna be perfect. Uh, and I think a big thing that I've had to learn is when to let go. Because before I went to art school, I and my parents will tell you, I would have tantrums trying to perfect a finger on a drawing, just it was obsessive. And I think that that is something that I really took away from art school was it's never going to be perfect, especially, if you're on a deadline and you have to make something, you know, quick, or within the span of a few weeks. You just have to put it out there. Um, because I think, each piece that I make, that's the best that I could do at the time. And I think that that's important. And you only keep evolving. And I think that if you keep on trying to drill into this one piece, I think that in a way, in my opinion, it hinders evolution. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, and there are definitely pieces that I look back on and I'm like, oh, I would have done this differently. I would have, you know, worked on that hand, or I would have done the values differently, and um, and I think that I don't want to say it's giving up, but it's like a surrender. It's like, okay, this is good for now. This is good for now, and I can keep building and I can keep going, but I think it's time to let this piece go and keep moving forward. I think it's kind of just like a subconscious, like intuitive thing, and it's hard. It's so hard because, deep down there's that.
I'm sorry, Haley, it says your internet connection is unstable, but that's okay. We're gonna wait here and it's gonna stabilize itself. Or it could be me that's frozen. It's all good, people. We'll get her back. It's all good. No worries. Trust. Trust the process. Thank you very much for your patience. Yeah, right. If I freak out, then what? Okay, I can't do that. Whew. That's not gonna resolve anything. Here we go. Here she is.
I do not know what happened there.
Don't matter. You're here. That's all that matters. We just like a energizer bunny. We just got to keep going. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Wherever you want to continue, that's where we go.
Oh gosh, what was I don't even remember what I was talking about.
We were talking about when is enough. When you feel is enough, and you was talking about letting go and
Hmm.
basically trusting the process.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's something that is valuable even to people that are not artists, is just letting go of things and choosing to move on, um, which I have I have a problem with letting go of things at times, but I think once you keep letting it continue to sit, I think you kind of start to learn this is not benefiting me. Um, and yeah, so I think the art of letting go is very important for everyone, not even just artists. So,
You are right, because I can get in analysis paralysis with overthinking, and which is also a form of self-sabotage,
mhm,
and I end up with doing absolutely nothing.
mhm,
Okay? So, at least with taking action, you can see a positive step forward, even
mhm,
though it may not be what you actually want 100%. At least you put it out there and say, oh, okay, well, I can go back and make these still little touches to it. Okay? Rather than have nothing sitting out there, right?
mhm,
Coming from a position of strength, coming from a position of abundance, coming from a position of moving things forward, there's going to always be trial and error. There's always going to be things that you're going to say, I could have done better. Okay, so, all right, but I made action. There it is. And from
mhm,
there, you can continue to move yourself forward. Okay, right?
mhm, mhm, absolutely, yeah. I think I think that a very large aspect of being an artist is um humility. I think that, and I feel like it didn't fully click for me until after I graduated, because I think you're just, when you're in school for a specific degree, you're surrounded by like-minded individuals, and people that more or less uplift you, and you're surrounded by the same professors, and it is sort of, for lack of a better term, an echo chamber, in a positive way. It can be it's good to be around people like that, especially when you haven't been, previously. But I think for me, I am now on my own. I don't have that community, and I don't speak for every artist, but for myself in particular, I am I don't have that community anymore. And so it feels like I'm kind of having to learn my own way after doing things a certain way for so long. And it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And I think that is something that a lot of artists may struggle with, and become discouraged by. And being persistent and putting your stuff out there, even though you don't feel like it's good enough to present to the world, even though you don't have that constant validation from your peers or your professors. It's really hard, and it's really uncomfortable and scary. But I think a part of this learning process is learning to put aside that, I guess, ego, and learning to, I guess, put yourself out there, because in the long run it's better than not. It's better than not. um yeah, so
Yes, Yeah, because it's like at some point it's like a bird or what in any animal. I'm just use for example. You know, they're with their mother and she's getting all the nurturing, getting all the nurturing and cultivating you, and eventually you're going to go out there on your own. And each and every one of us, and we have to be able to be willing to take a leap of faith and jump off that cliff and say, this is something I've been training for my whole life.
Mhm.
Okay. You're not going to know for sure whether you're going to be successful or not until you jump. But if you
Mhm.
never jump, you will never know. You will never know. So you have to trust in your abilities. You have to trust um in yourself, and knowing that you got this. Okay.
Mhm.
And you have to just be willing to see. If not, then you'll again, you never know. Look at, they have a lot of people that's dead in the cemetery that never got an opportunity to showcase their talent for whatever reason. Maybe because of fear, because somebody else told them your work is not good enough, because somebody else say no, this is not a good time. But if you never give up, look at all those artists out there during the Harlem Renaissance. You know, they made it because they didn't let anybody stop them. Okay, they turned every no into a yes.
Mhm.
Okay, and so that's what we have to do.
Mhm.
Otherwise we will never know. And
Mhm.
so we're writing our legacy every day. Okay. And let's talk about your picture, and let's bring that out and show people, because during I was born during the 1960s, and some of those leaders that were still prevalent today, Martin Luther King, okay, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. These are some of the role models that I looked up to. I didn't
Mhm.
have any of my family to do that with. So I found people through the communities, and through people that I admired. And I was like, I want to be like Rosa Parks. I want to be able to speak like Martin Luther King. I want to have the courageousness of Malcolm X. So we need people like that. And you are one of those role models. And I told you when I saw your picture that I see your picture one day in the Smithsonian. Okay. And we have to think of ourselves these ways in order for others to see us in this way. Okay.
Mhm.
I had low self esteem when I was growing up because I was told I was never going to be nothing.
Mhm.
And I strove to prove my father and everyone else wrong. Okay.
Mhm.
And whereas you had positive role models that geared you in that direction, which is much better holistically. So how can you help others, you know, find that find that hope to be able to continue when everything around us is so bleak
Mhm.
in today's world?
Yeah, it's mm, that's it's tough because I think, and I think, I mean, like in your case, like when you're told that you are something for so long, you genuinely start to assume that as your identity, and it's hard to unlearn. Um, and I think as someone that never, you know, I never, I was never really, told that I wouldn't be something that, because that's just so presumptuous of of the future, and it's just, and I don't have an answer. I think the deprogramming process is different for everybody. It happens at different stages of everyone's lives. And, it's easy for me to say, oh, it's not true. You shouldn't believe that about yourself. But it's so much more complex than that. The human brain is so much more complex than that. So, like I said before, I think that the only answer is persistence is key. I think that's the only answer I can give because, um, and I think for me, particularly, the negativity is all in my head because I have people around me that are telling me you could be something. This could be something. But it's in my, so it's sort of the opposite, and it's very, very hard to unlearn that dialogue. And I just, so yeah, I unfortunately don't have the answer. I think it's very complex, to try to understand, but I think that we can find, and I mean, and that it all comes back to art is defiance. I think that is the main takeaway: persistence and using your art as defiance, I think, is the main takeaway.
And I think with that being said, we utilize that to to uh to increase our consciousness, to also increase our confidence,
Mm.
because when we can be defiant and say what we feel, okay, and to be able to articulate that to the world, we realize that we are so much more uh connected and so much more the same than we are different, because a lot of people will realize, well, I have the same concerns. Me
Mm-hmm.
too. Me too. So how can we come together and support each other instead of being disconnected and feeling alone? How can we come together and say, let's connect on this level? Okay? We meet each other where we are, and how can we uplift and motivate each other in a way that's going to be uh it's going to help the whole collective, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what we're doing now is, an amazing avenue. I think social media, is a very good place, as destructive as it can be, unfortunately. It's it's sort of a, I guess, dichotomy. Um, but I mean, I've truly, social media is I found a lot of people that are very uplifting, and supportive of my creative endeavors. Um, and it's easily accessible. Um, but I think that we all, as people, I think something that my art has opened the door for. I think it's opened the door for people to understand me as a person, in ways that words, uh, can't convey. And I think as people looking at art and trying to understand art, I think allows us to slow down. I think that right now everything is moving so quickly. Things are happening. I mean, as we speak, there's probably some new, uh, development, but I think that I think that it takes an effort, um, to say to ourselves, let's slow down and try to understand each other. Uh, I hope that doesn't sound too cliche, but yeah, I think that's really when I feel a connection to the people around me, is when observe their work, and it's like a door. Um, so yeah.
Yes, and it connects us and it brings us all closer together because
Hmm.
we're able to see things from other people's perspective. We're able to step outside of ourselves, and that is was what is able enable us to meet these common goals and common interests and come together. Okay, because somebody can look at your work and say, wow, it's beautiful. What happened if you add this to it?
Hmm.
What it may look like. And if we're open-minded to these type of conversations, then look at the things that we can create in the world. Nothing is impossible. So that's the good thing about being a creator. I was thinking today, I remember when I was maybe 15 years ago, I knew this minister, and she used to like to take clay, and she used to just take it and just formalize it and everything like that. And I'm like, yeah, you can use clay, you can use different type of yarn or whatever it is that you find joy in to be creative. Do that, whether it's yarn, whether it's clay, whether it's watercolors, whatever it is that brings you joy and able to express how you feel inside, and you can articulate that, and that is beauty. We are creating beauty, okay, to share with the world. So don't limit yourself in ways you can create art. Art is all types of forms,
Hmm.
right? Like, for example, you using these wrinkles and grays. Talk to us about that.
Wrinkles and, do you mean like?
Your wrinkles and grays that you talk about your artwork, capturing realistic details.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I in school, I we did studies of like live models. So we we would have models that had unconventional body types, and I think that was something that was very valuable for me, to understand, because I think, at least, up until I went to school, I very much focused on conventional body types and the conventional beauty standard, and learning that this is what real people look like, and learning how the light hits wrinkles, and how, I think things like that are intimidating to draw. Uh, and I think understanding that this is how real people work, and these are the dynamics, of real people, um, it helped inform my art study, and how I can make my art an even truer expression of reality. Um, so yeah.
That that is amazing, because then I think about, like artificial limbs,
Hmm.
how they're created. It's an art form, okay? And so through innovation, we can create a lot of different things. And as long as we keep our minds and our hearts open to that, then we are in always in a creative state,
Hmm.
right? Whether it's words, whether it's an art form, or whatever we are articulating in the world, it's a form of art.
Hmm.
And each person see it with their own set of experiences, okay? Depending on the environment in which they came from. We all
Hmm.
see things in different aspects. So that's what makes us all unique. And when we come together and have these conversations, then we can see all of these things and see what we can create on a higher level with other people. So it's more to it than what we than meets the eye. Okay. And so, does anybody have any questions? Um, don't be afraid. Go big or go home. And I definitely have to agree with that. But everything begins in the mind, okay? And from there we create, whether it's out by ourselves or whether with other human beings, okay? So I don't see I love how okay, okay. Our art will find those who love it. So it's important for us to keep creating and keep visible. That's how our supporters find us. And that's true. That's what we're talking about right now. Keep creating. Exactly. Because you can always go back and touch up a painting or an article, a poem, or whatever. Once you've created it, it's nothing preventing you from doing that. And through our art, that's how that's how people find us. Exactly. Our tribe find us. So um oh, sorry about that. Hope everything is okay with your uncle, Natasha K. Um, so do you have any further comments or suggestions for people, Haley?
Um, so I see someone in the comments said, "Can you talk about how creativity should be taught to young people?" That is a very interesting prompt. I think I think the way it's taught now it is very, I guess, formulaic. It's kind of it's restricting. Um, and I don't know the answer. I think I think at least just generally speaking, I think just letting people create, I think is I feel like is it's the only way. Um, and I think even when I was in art school, I didn't feel like I had room to truly express what I wanted to express because I felt like people wouldn't get it, or they didn't want to, they didn't, it didn't fit the prompt, or it felt like we constantly had to sort of create things under a certain like umbrella rather than just create. And so I think and I'm not I'm not in charge of the curriculum, so I wish I had a better answer, but yeah.
I personally think too it has a lot to do with programming and conditioning, because when I think about when I was a kid, and you put all the kids in the room to draw, some people are going to gravitate towards it, and some is not. Some people are going to be much more introverted and much more laid back, and it's going to take them much longer to start the drawing process based on a number of things. Okay, are they feeling safe in their environment? Okay,
Mhm.
so we have to take all these things in consideration, because then there's expectations. and then we like, okay, well, they want me to do this, but how do I go about it? So it's a lot of things. So, when you're looking at a child and their child development situation, it can be tricky. It can be very, very tricky, because you're going to have some kids are going to be much more prone toward, and some going to be much more withdrawn. How you get the withdrawn kid to come in and feel safe enough to want to to open up. So it's not, I don't think it's just no one answer.
Mhm,
Okay. I'm just looking at it from the outside looking in. Okay.
mhm,
So as a teacher being trained for these things, they can understand that you might have to break the room down. If you got 20 kids in a room, you might have to break it down, maybe sets of five here. These is the kids. Okay. They're going to do very, very well together. Okay. They might, maybe the slower kids, we'll put these two together. Maybe they can work together with each other and help each other out. So, you know, no one size fits all in the
mhm.
world. We just have to figure it out like that. Even when we ourselves get too overwhelmed, we have to break things down to smaller chunks in order to cope, to keep from getting stressed out and things like that. Baby steps, baby
Mhm,
steps. That's my suggestion. Okay. Um, so i- so is there any other comments or questions? Um, oh, Karen said I have to take care of my mom, but I wanted to support the show for a few minutes. Thank you, Karen. We support you. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions or concerns or anything like that? Yes, persistence is important. Absolutely, baby steps. Okay. No, because we know there's going to be a lot of trials and errors. Okay, but we just have to give ourselves some grace and say, okay, I made a mistake. Okay, it's not. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not. Okay, well, what can I do? One step I can do to make it better next time. That's it, right?
right, yeah, exactly. And
Absolutely.
I think it's hard to, give yourself grace as well, especially,
Exactly.
I mean, especially when, for me in art school, we're always taught, like, you do critiques on a piece and you're always kind of fed with, oh, you could have done this better, the composition could have been different here. And so I think it kind of inadvertently creates this inner dialogue that is, it's useful to self-critique, but it can also be extremely detrimental, and not super productive, because I think it hinders, like a true art expression when you're just constantly saying, oh, and I say this in the sense of, like, when you're making art in a more anxious fashion rather than just doing it. um because art does require problem solving, it really does, but when it's to the point that you're unsure of yourself, I think then um it becomes more destructive than beneficial, in my opinion.
To me, if the work is that hard, then it's not something that I should be doing. I'm gonna
Hmm.
tell you why. Because it's something that I'm passionate about. It shouldn't be that straining.
Mhm.
Okay. Just like I'm doing these videos and things like that. I'm doing this stuff because I enjoy doing it.
Mhm.
Okay. If I didn't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't do it. because it wouldn't be bringing me joy, and it would be difficult, and it would I would just quit altogether.
Mhm.
Find out what brings you joy and what you enjoy doing, and do that. That's what I say. And from there, then you build on that, because then the laws of attraction is at work. So
Mhm.
if you enjoy playing the clarinet, do that. If you enjoy painting, do that. I enjoy music, I do that. Okay. And then I'm always thinking, well, how can I improve upon that? How can I take the to the next level? If you're not if it's not something that you enjoy, stop doing it and figure out what else you want to do instead. That's
Mhm.
my advice.
I agree. I agree. And I think that is something a lot of artists, or at least I have trouble um, coming to terms with. I think it's difficult because it you're trying to stay true to yourself, but also simultaneously be seen, and it's like in in your brain you're like, okay, what is going to be appealing for people, what's going to make people stop scrolling and click on my drawing. And I think that is it's a difficult thing to combat and also work with, uh especially if you want to put yourself out there. And I really struggle with this as an artist that um posts on social media and uses social media as a form of a business essentially. um because and it's something that I take notice of when I post like fan art, that gets more likes and views than as opposed to when I post original work. And it really affects the art that I make and the art that I put out. And don't get me wrong, I still love making fan art and art that's based on my personal interests. But when I want to put out art that has a deeper sort of substance, it doesn't feel seen. And I think that goes back to the earlier conversation of being persistent. Is it worth it? And I think that that means something for each person. Success means something different for each person. And I think for me, I'm still trying to decide what success means for me, because I think it's not something that you arrive at. I think it's something you're constantly building. So I think for me, I'm constantly having goals and I'm constantly just having milestones that I want to hit. There's never like a set destination, because I don't think that's not how life works. uh, just from what I've seen my in my 22 years of being on this planet, and just having you know my dad, who he is. He's been on Wall Street. He's lived in $1 million house, but and he was very, I mean, he is a very successful person, but it's at the end of the day, there there are multiple facets of being a successful person. um so yeah. And I saw someone in the comments said everyone has to fail to move forward. If you never failed, you won't succeed. um and I really resonate with that. I don't think that I can say that I have failed in anything yet, because I don't think I've started anything, but there's definitely like this voice in my head that makes me feel like I've failed at something. Um just because of comparison and seeing other people that are further than me or in a different spot than me. But I have sort of deconstructed that, and I've thought to myself, okay, what is it that they have that I would like to have, and what did they do to obtain that? Is that realistic for me to emulate that? And 9 times out of 10 it's just, you know, you have to advocate yourself. You have to. And I a lot of being an artist is, at least in this day and age, self-advocating, marketing yourself, and it can be very, very hard because it feels sort of uh, egotistical. But you have to kind of put the ego aside. And luckily for me, I enjoy making content. I haven't made, I haven't made like long form content, like actual edited content in a very long time, which I'm going to begin doing that again. Because I think for the longest time there's kind of been this voice in my head that's like, this is embarrassing, this is weird, no one's gonna watch this. But it's like, I think I'm at the stage where I don't care anymore.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Good for you. Good for you.
yeah.
Because that affects the content that you put out. Okay. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, Millie said that comparison is a dream killer, and she's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because we don't know where other people are in their process. Okay. They
Mm-hmm.
might have started way before we did. Okay. And who's to say what they're doing is something that resonates with us anyway? Okay. So if we stay focused on what we're doing, then we don't have to compare ourselves with nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At all. 100%. You have to like what you are doing. Absolutely. So otherwise, why are you doing it? Okay. And who is it going to benefit if you're not enjoying it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Music helps me to paint. Robin says, yes, absolutely. Music helps me with everything. Okay. So I'm mindful of that. Millie said, inspiration happens to me in a free flowing fashion. Yes, there it is. Okay. Sometimes I just go outside with the dogs and I come back with some ideas about something to write. Okay. And I'm like, yes, that's a good idea. Okay. I just have to remember it as I'm walking home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
Blueson, Bob says everybody has to fail. Oh, you said, okay. We heard about that one. Okay. And yeah, Robes, peace. Absolutely. Deadlines and money making can kill creativity. We know about that, right? Somebody tell you, oh yeah, you got this deadline. I need this by 6 o'clock today. Okay, fine. It ain't gonna be my best, but I'm gonna send it to you anyway. Okay? If you had just left me alone, I would have gave you something much better. Okay? But when you put a limit on it, okay, well, I'm just gonna give you the minimum. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I don't have time to put my all into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna come back and say, well, this is not acceptable. I'm like, well, you should have gave this to me 2 days ago. Not at the last minute and say I need it like tomorrow. It don't work like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Let's see. Anybody else have anything to say? Uh Children are creative by nature. It gets snuffed out along the way. Exactly. By other people's expectations of what they want us to do instead. No, we don't want you to do that. I want you to be a doctor instead. I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Okay? Why you want me to be a doctor? Oh, because your grandfather was a doctor. Okay? He was a doctor. Why I got to be a doctor? I want to be a lawyer. Okay? All right. Can you talk to me about creativity? Oh, okay. We heard about that one. When is she gonna be okay? When she's gonna finish that sketch, the Calisi. Oh yeah, you gotta bring
Oh
out the
my
sketch. Remember we
goodness.
talked? I'm sorry, that was your father.
Well, he he's just he's just trolling in the comments. He is okay. He's referring to uh, chat, or anyone that's watching has ever watched Game of Thrones. I when I was in high school, I did a drawing of uh Daenerys Targaryen, and I never finished it. I never finished it. It was very detailed, and that my parents have been begging me to finish it ever since. And I just keep saying, look, that thing is never gonna get finished. It's just not. And with my art history minor, I now can be like, well, Da Vinci actually had a lot. He had a issue with finishing paintings, so I some things are just not gonna get finished, and that's okay. So
Well, can you share that picture with us that you shared with Nick and Walter and talk
I
about it?
can. Let's. I think I'm gonna try to share my screen. Hopefully that
I'm
works.
glad we didn't want to leave here without showing that picture.
Let's see. Uh, Gosh.
It'll be worth the wait, guys.
I might have to just get my
Whatever works for you.
yeah. All right. Let me get my. I didn't want to do it this way, but alas. All right. Let's see. And I actually have the physical painting. I honestly might just like hold it up
Perfect,
because
perfect.
I think you'll get a better scope of this is the actual piece. It is
Nice.
20 by 24 inches.
Very
Uh,
nice.
yeah, I haven't varnished it yet, so it's still sort of matte. But this is the piece.
Wow.
And I will send you the digital version.
Okay,
Um,
well,
just so you can
okay.
put it in the notes after, because I know it's not the best quality over live stream. So
What about the other one? What about the other one? With you was it with Martin Luther King and
oh yes, yeah, I can pull
can
that
you
one
can you
up.
show that can you show that to us? Now the pictures you putting on there, you got protected on there so nobody can take your picture and actually repurpose it for and put their name on it because you know how people is on social media. I don't trust.
Yeah, it's yeah. I
Okay.
that I've had that happen to me before.
You have to.
It's
People take it
it's
and
difficult. It's difficult to prevent. I mean, yeah. I mean, I mean, luckily with that piece, my face is literally on it, so I think um, it'd be hard for another person to claim that that's theirs. But I try to always put my signature um, on my
good.
pieces. I do
Good.
fail too at times, and my dad gets mad. But
Yeah, because
um,
people will take your stuff and you end up seeing it somewhere and then somebody got a $10,000 price tag on it. Like, that's mine. What
mm,
the hell you doing? Yeah, so you have to
mm,
be cognizant of that, okay?
no, for
I
sure, for
can't tell
sure.
you how many people throughout history has stolen our ideas, the cotton gin, all these other things. So we need to be mindful to protect our intellectual property. Okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Um, all right. This is hold on one second. Sorry, this is very
No
rinky dink.
worries. No worries.
So this is the Martin Luther King piece that I made. I was in, I think, the 10th grade when I made it.
Wow.
It's
Wow. That is good.
um, it's just pen and ink, and it is stippling. Let me see if I can zoom in here. It's a lot of tiny dots.
Wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Can you tell us the guy from the left to the right? I think that guy was Abernathy. Ralph Abernathy, wasn't that Ralph Abernathy? And
Yes.
then Martin Luther King. Who's the other guys?
Um, I know John Lewis is at the end here.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Um,
He was very famous
for
um
sure. Um,
during that time.
there are other, the names are escaping me. Hold on one second.
That's okay.
Let's see. Yeah, so Ralph Abernathy, James Foreman, Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, and Reverend Jesse Douglas. Yes. So, and that's just pen and ink. Um, so yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So your work, I see you eventually, becoming a influence. You are an influencer yourself, and leading young people to success. Really, you're a positive role model yourself, like Rosa Parks and so many others.
I've never
I don't
been
know how you
compared
feel
to.
about that. I don't know how you feel about that, but it is what it is. Embrace it.
Hey, I'll take what I can get. I mean, no, I was actually talking. I think I was talking to you about this yesterday when we were on our Zoom call. But I really appreciate being platformed by people that are not of my generation. I think it's very important to hear from our perspective. Um, I think that there is a notion that Gen Z feels like we're entitled. And honestly, I feel like maybe we are. I feel like we could use a bit of a break, honestly. Um, I think my dad actually, I don't know if he's told this story before, but uh, one of his peers said that, Gen Z is not, if they just like stopped buying coffees all the time, maybe they could save up money, but they would rather just, and I'm just, I mean, I've never, that is just something that is so tone deaf. I, it's, I mean, pardon me for indulging a little bit. I can't really afford to like even have an apartment on my own without working about 3 to 4 different jobs. And that's not, that's not even just like all my peers are struggling right now. Peers that are not even just in the arts. It's so difficult to live. um, and I think it's hard when, my dad tells me when he was 25, he was able to buy a house. And I could not even dream of something like that. I mean, that's just so far outside the scope of what is possible right now. I think it would take a tremendous amount of work. So I think that like people my age have had to adjust, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier. We've had to adjust what what success looks like. Because for me, success looks like comfortability, being able to just pay my bills and not have to worry about whether or not I'm going to have to pay one and miss another one because I don't have enough money to pay all my bills. And I want to be able to afford the bare necessities without having to worry about, siphoning off money for this, and that's just something that I feel like is the bare minimum, but it's something that is hard to come by now, I think. So, yeah.
Haley, that's why these conversations are so important. So we can figure out how can we help and support each other through these difficult times.
Mhm. I think, oh, it's like I said before, I think just doing this and seeing each other, seeing that the world is not black and white, I think seeing everyone and their experiences, I think it really opens my eyes. I think being on this platform in particular, it's opened my eyes to a lot of different people, and um, I think it's made me realize that art really is wanted and it really is important in this current climate. Um, and I think that more artists need to hear that particularly, but I think just in general, I think that we all need to give ourselves more grace and also give others more grace, because it is really hard to live right now, and I think that is very important. So,
I want to thank you so much for this conversation today. This has been truly meaningful. And any final words or anything you would like to share with everyone?
um I honestly just thank you for even, being interested in just hearing my perspective and taking me seriously. Um, I think a lot of artists, um, it's kind of touch and go when it comes to being understood and seen and taken seriously. So I appreciate that, and to everyone that has commented, um, and everyone who's watching, I appreciate all of it. I love having a dialogue with other people and understanding, um, how they think and how they see the world. So, thank you,
Thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the best. And if you need anything, you can reach out. I got you.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you all for coming today. And thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. All right. Bye bye.